too. What can I say? It's Modern Relics Podcast. We're back. I'm Angel's Lucky. How's it going, dude? Yeah.
It's going very well.
Good.
I'm having a good day. I'm feeling good. The sun's out finally. We've had kind of a cold week, but
Me too.
it's been great. We're doing good.
Nice.
So,
Nice. Every time I pull up our YouTube page just to verify that audio is audioing, I just get these crazy ads for YouTube. It's like, I'm already on YouTube. Stop. Drop with the ads. Yeah, I'm here. It's good. It's an interesting week. Like I mentioned last week that I'm starting a new job over at Redacted where I work. And it's always hard because when you've been in a position for as long as I have been, there's a really long tail of like, I'm not going to be able to notify everybody that I want to notify that I'm changing roles, and so that I won't be the primary contact for whatever it is they need. So it's been a lot of 1 foot in a new pool, 1 foot in an old pool, lots of like information to consume. It's if you've gone through a big transition, like a career transition like that, I'm sure you can empathize, but it's just been going blind on all that. I've kind of had my head out of the news. But that said, there's a few things we're going to cover tonight. Should be a pretty good one. Weather here, good though, by the way. It's back to 70 degrees and sunny. Can't argue that. That feels good. No crazy rainstorms or windstorms yet, although where I live, typically the month of April is usually the windy month. So I'm kind of gearing up for more debris floating around. Other than that, it's been pretty quiet.
Oh yeah, I'm under no delusion. We're still in March here in North Idaho. We'll get our 4th or 5th winter here pretty soon. So
yeah, your son was telling me like last week at some point that it snowed recently. Like it snowed a lot and then it melted away. It was like,
yeah,
not surprised, but yeah, it's got to suck.
It was like 60, 65 like 2 days prior to that, and then the temperature dropped, snowed, and then was sunny again. I mean, it was beautiful this morning.
Yeah.
All of a sudden we had a downpour of rain about an hour and a half ago, and now it's sunny again. So the most schizophrenic weather in the country is North Idaho, I think.
Yeah.
So.
You just there's a window of time where you're supposed to kind of schedule out, like I should get my snow tires taken off so I don't run studs on dry pavement and stuff. And then there's when the state or the county or whatever like mandates that you take them off, like you have to have them off by some time. Just go by the mandated you have to have them off, because there's always like some weird freak snowstorm that happens late, but that does seem unusually late for your area, at least from memory. I haven't lived there in years, but
it has like my birthday is like the 3rd week of June, and it has snowed on my birthday before here, so it is not out of the ordinary. And I
that's
just
absurd.
Basically wait till July until I'm like, okay, no more snow. Until
4th of July is like the snow cutoff. Look, we're safe now.
Until like the end of September, and then all of a sudden we're back into potential snow season. So, but yeah, I mean, I can't even get in the water, like the lake or the river, until August here, because there's still icebergs floating around in the lake, and I'm just like, nah, I'm not that guy.
I
don't get into that kind of water.
Seriously cold water. If you're like, I've swam in like July. Like I used to do this thing. It's funny. Flashback time. There is a section that stretches almost to where the college campus starts, called the Steps at Independence Point. Yeah. My favorite thing is I used to snorkel Independence Point on July 5th because there's so many. There are so many people down there on the 4th. Like $100 bills will float out of people's pockets, and like, you know, loose change and trinkets and toys and
wallets and watches and all that kind of stuff.
I would just put a mesh bag on my ankle and I would just swim up and down the shoreline and collect all kinds of stuff. Like I found some serious jewelry that was returned to an owner one year that I thought was really cool. They were like super grateful that came up, because I just gave it to the police and left them my name and number and stuff, and it made its way back like a month later. So I was like, this looks important. But yeah, it's always cold in that water until late July
Yeah.
into August for sure. It's like
Yep.
brutally cold.
Yeah.
Geez. So hey, lot going on. I read a story. Go ahead.
We had a pretty heavy week last week.
Yeah.
Are we going into another one, or is this one going to be?
I think this is going to be pop and topical.
Okay.
Because like 2 hours ago, the story hit my RSS feed about Nicole Shanahan.
Oh yeah.
And I was just like, who is this, right? And RFK Jr. is a presidential candidate that's running from the independent party, likely because of a technicality. Likely because he's going to try and pick off the non-deep left Democrats and then pull back like in Scooby-Doo, like, let's see who's really under there. And oh no, it's actually a Democrat. So I think
actually, yeah, his strategy has always been kind of the independent vote, but also like the Democrats that are like, wow, the left has gone bananas. This guy seems reasonable.
He's their hero.
Right.
Yeah.
And then from the right, the Republicans that are like, Trump is too much. And I think that's his strategy, is just trying to gather the margins on both of those sides plus all the middle. And it's not a bad strategy. Do I think it's going to work? Probably not. I think it's actually, it's not
doing what it
might actually change it.
Yeah, it's not doing what it's intended to do, because the polls right now are that Kennedy's numbers are hurting Biden and helping Trump. That's all they're doing. He's just cannibalizing the blue base, more or less, because he's picking off the not as deep left, I guess. More the moderate left. So
just the tired left. You know, like, oh, this guy he's miserable and he's not going to win. Like, we made a bad choice in Biden and he's getting worse and worse. This is our only other option. And where you're not going to peel off as many Trumpers. You're going to, like, his group is pretty solid based. So it's a lot harder to do that. But yeah, so tell me about this lady that he picked.
It's fun because I don't know anything about her.
I didn't either.
It's independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced today that Nicole Shanahan, a very wealthy attorney and entrepreneur in the San Francisco Bay Area, will be joining his campaign as his vice presidential selection. This is going to be a really soft pitch because I'm reading this directly from MDC.
Okay.
Shanahan, who like Kennedy has never run for elected office, has contributed to his campaign and his super PAC. Kennedy made the announcement at an event in Shanahan's hometown of Oakland. They're doing really well. In explaining his decision, Kennedy said he wanted to choose a young athlete from a diverse background as his running mate and touted Shanahan's experience in tech and advocacy. Shanahan is exactly my years old.
Wait, that was a quote?
No.
That's what it said?
I'm telling you this.
You're years old. Oh,
she's exactly my years old.
She's your age?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't necessarily, she's probably has a lot of experience in tech and advocacy.
Did you say athlete?
As do I. Yes, I did. That was his definition. Like, I want an athlete in this running that I'm doing, right? Okay, like that's young and exciting and experienced, right? That was his quote.
He wasn't like picking her because of her literal track record.
I'm
running track and field.
I'm 5 months older than she is.
Oh, wow.
Also, I have a lot of experience in tech and advocacy.
Yeah.
In her address, Shanahan rallied against the Democratic Party, saying the institution has lost its way and that she's formally leaving it behind. Sure. She also focuses on concerns over the U.S. food supply, which is a top concern of Kennedy's, expressing skepticism of medicine and vaccines, also a top Kennedy cause. She's an echo chamber. That's the only thing I can really see. She raised concerns about electromagnetic pollution, elevating a conspiracy theory about the health effects of 5G and Wi-Fi signals. That's going to hurt them in the long run.
Sure is.
Especially from a tech mogul.
Mm-hmm.
Independent movement comes at a time of extreme division in America that threatens to tear this country apart, Shanahan said. It's time for realignment. It is time, as Bobby Kennedy says, to focus on our unifying values rather than our divisions. Hey, look, that's stuff I can get behind. I mean, even where I sit politically, these are not groundbreaking, oh my God, like proclamations. She talks about focusing on his vision for America, on and on and on.
Pretty generic.
It just goes on and on. What this article does not say is affiliation with our homie George Soros.
Yeah.
Doesn't talk about some of the things that she has supported on the Democratic side that has driven towns like her hometown Oakland into a fentanyl-infested, impoverished, homeless wasteland, and other things. It just doesn't mention that because it's NBC.
Right.
That said, there's some interesting narratives that are popping up across feeds around an affair with Elon Musk and a bunch of bunch of different stuff she may or may not have been involved in.
So RFK Jr. went and snatched up Elon Musk's ex and threw her on the ticket.
I guess.
Well, I mean, Elon Musk has a lot of exes, so I guess that would be probably hard to, if you're picking a female running mate.
This is how far behind I was. I had no idea he was involved with Amber Heard, but I guess he was involved with Amber Heard.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, cool.
There's quite a few that list is very large.
Here's what is interesting on the latter half of the article. It closes with the Kennedy's professional causes as the head of the country's best funded anti-vaccine organization, Children's Health Defense. He took a leave from the organization to run for president, but has filled his campaign with anti-vaccine activists. At his Tuesday event, warm-up speakers included Del Bigtree, Kennedy's communications director and a prominent anti-vaccine activist. It included Jay Bhattacharya, a Stanford professor and outspoken opponent of the COVID mitigation measures, and Angela Stanton King, a one-time GOP congressional candidate who Trump pardoned in 2020 for her role in a stolen car ring. In her congressional run, Stanton King compared gay and transgender people to pedophiles and said the Black Lives Matter movement was a major cover-up for pedophilia and human trafficking. Full stop. So NBC went real soft and then really fucking hard at the end of the article.
Yeah, I was like,
and then just was like, deuces were out. So that's as much as I know about her is what I've read in this article as of 2 hours ago. I've never even heard of her before now.
Yeah, I would like to see a more extensive list of her policies that she supports and stuff. It doesn't seem to really explore that in this softball article, but what I do know about RFK Jr., like, yeah, he's great on free speech. He's also great on the mandates and the vaccine stuff. I've absolutely agree with him on all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Literally everything else I don't. He's a super pusher for green energy and environmentalism and all of that stuff. He's a big, he is not an advocate for Second Amendment.
Nope.
He loves red flag laws and would love to strip us of any military grade style weapons, and many other things that if I went down the list, it's literally just those two things: free speech and his beliefs on medical freedoms. And if she's basically mirroring that, then I honestly think that this particular choice, which he had potential to pick somebody else that would have probably pulled more from the right.
Right.
I think he basically, this choice just hands Trump the victory. He's just going to pull more with this choice. It's just going to pull more from Biden, and Trump is going to walk away with this one. I think he just essentially sealed the deal with picking her for a VP.
I'm not certain that RFK Jr. was much of a threat to either political party at this point, but I think picking a candidate like this on a surface level with no research, so take my opinion with a grain of salt here, it is probably to scoop up additional funding for known backers of this candidate from her professional life prior to being a vice presidential hopeful. So at this point, it feels like it's kind of a PR move more than it is something meaningful, in my opinion.
For sure.
especially if she's just going to echo everything he says. So we'll probably end up doing more of a deep dive on this candidate just to understand exactly what she's voted for, besides what I've seen her name attached to in some of the bills that have been passed in California, as I keenly watch, understanding that Oregon and Washington will follow suit within a matter of like 24 to 48 hours with whatever legislation gets passed there.
Right.
And that's pattern positive. Like, you can check that.
Well, it's the Western States Union, so they're actually contractually obligated to do so. And in fact, Idaho is even part of that, where our governor Brad Little is actually the vice chair of that organization, which I don't think includes Utah, but Washington, California, Oregon, and Idaho are definitely involved in that. So
yeah.
And they meet frequently, and what they do is they decide which kind of progressive policies that they can start kind of whittling through the system, and which state it's best to implement it first. Now, Idaho typically is last on that list, but give it 4 years after it's done in either or any of the other three, they try to push it through here. It hasn't been working very well, a little bit here and there, but not a lot, not as much as they would like. But yeah, you're right. That's the Western Union PAC. So
yeah,
it is not just coincidence that happens.
There's an official,
there's an actual organization.
Yeah, it's like the Western PAC something.
Yeah.
But speaking of like being soft on 2A or hating 2A, I did want to talk about gun gear a little bit. What you should own and panic buying. I was talking to a couple of friends of mine, and the subject of owning a plate carrier came up.
Yeah.
And I bought a plate carrier. And it was mostly like, well, you shouldn't have that. What would you ever need that for? And my answer was, well, because I can have that, and my need for it is hopefully never.
Right.
But the point is, I still want one, and I would like to train in one for a multitude of reasons. But I think it's not maybe as essential as owning a gun for home defense or whatever the case is. But I don't think you should put a limit on it. Like, as a longtime motorcyclist, people will routinely ask me, well, how much money should I spend on motorcycle gear? Like, what's the right price? And my answer is always the same. It's like, well, how much does it cost to get airlifted to the hospital?
Yeah.
I mean,
as much as it takes.
As much as you want it to be. If you want to spend $200,000 on gear, do it. You know, and that's entirely up to you. But
that's the same kind of, like people ask me, how much is a sleeve? And I'm like, I don't know. How much is a red car? Right. How much is a bag of groceries? Yeah. It's how much you want to invest in your own life.
Right.
So that it's kind of a silly question in its premise, is that how much should I invest in the amount of, I get what they're trying to say.
Right. Well, and it comes from a place of earnestness.
Yes.
Like, I'm interested to know, so I don't fucking blow my whole paycheck on something I don't need or whatever. And so I never like swat people down with like being a dick about it. I usually make it a joke. Like, I don't know, what's the cost to get airlifted? Whatever you want.
Right.
But in terms of like gun gear and stuff, it's not because I routinely live action role play that I've been a service member in the U.S. military. I haven't been.
Nope.
I like no bones about that. Do I learn
necessary
every single time I'm out on the range with other people or taking classes on survivalism or 100%? Like, I think it's okay to get whatever you really want to get, but if you're going to get them, train with them. Like,
right.
And it was an interesting point because I did feel that the question came from a level of earnestness. And one of my friends who did serve, who has a plate carrier as well, was going through some of the stuff with me. And he's like, no, these are great. Like, everyone should have one of these. Like, if you can get these, get one. Like, the health benefits are great because it's heavy and you're going to like train your body to like operate better with, weights on, like weight training.
Yeah.
But more than that, like here's all the pros and cons. Here's some stuff I learned from a bunch of different tours I did and different things to look out for and stuff, which is great because not everybody has that person when you're just kind of sitting there looking at like what's trash and what's to get. But I brought up panic buying because this is a little bit different than panic buying. Like I don't think there's going to be a run on nylon right now where like suddenly plate carriers aren't going to be available and stuff the way we saw with firearms and bullets and toilet paper even in
the 2020 ammo shortage.
Yeah, but I was with several people that used my expertise I say in air quotes. They used my heightened knowledge of firearms over their own to help with selection of a firearm. And what I saw during this panic buying period was kind of bananas. It was just a bunch of people that were terrified, that ran out and bought guns. They didn't know how to operate guns. And it's like, you should really seek some education on that. I'm excited that you're about to own one, and I think it's great, but please don't like wave it around the store and ask like what ammo fits in this and try and tuck it under your arm as you run. But it got me thinking, like, I would recommend things like plate carriers. I would recommend things like, what would be another excellent recommendation? Cleaning and maintenance supplies are obviously paramount if you're going to invest in this stuff. And a good storage solution that is safe and sound, especially if you're a homeowner around some kids or you live in an apartment that could be routinely visited by landlords with inspectors and stuff, because this is your liability, whether it's on your person or not. And so you should take that seriously. But besides specificity around gear, which I'd love to get into, like what are some things that you own or would recommend that is okay? It's not like because you're trying to pretend to be a soldier person or because you're, LARPing out on the gun range or you're trying to be Joe Tactical. Like what are some good things that you would say, hey, as average Joe guy, I own this. I think everyone should. It's awesome.
As somebody who's proficient, I'm not G.I. Joe.
Exactly.
I'm proficient in understanding my firearms, understanding how to clean and operate them properly, and to use them well.
Yeah.
And to use them well in different conditions. I'm not Joe Tactical, but I do, like every one of my family members has plate carriers.
Mm-hmm.
I have one for each one of us. And they don't get used outside of just training, and even then it's far more rare than I'd like, but I've got teenagers that are doing sports and stuff. It's hard to get them out there, but they have them and they are there and ready and they know how to put them on. They know how to use them. They have all of their tactical gear put on there. So just in case, they've got flashlights and they've got, fixed knives and other things that are ready for this situation of worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be caught with, as a dad, as a father, as a husband, as the leader of my household. It's my job to prepare them, and it's my job to prepare them in a way that gives them the best chance in any scenario. Scenario. Now, that being said, there's other things too, like besides just plate carriers, besides just, having the fun knickknacks. Like I have a newer, and it's I have gas masks for each one of my family members that are still in the package. We've learned how to put them on and then put them back in the package, and they're stored away. Just in case, and they are kind of the newer full face shield ones with the cans on both sides. They're like really nice ones that I got through a source. But besides that, like we have all of our bug out bags ready to go. So each one of my bags, my wife has one, I have one, each one of my kids have one. And then we have 2 extras for food and for other things. We've got a ton of dry food ready to go. We got a ton of canned food ready to go. We have a ton of MRE type foods ready to go. And water as well. We actually have a water tank in the back that is a 500 gallon food grade storage water tank that we have treated and keep it ready just in case something happens to the water lines in the area.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be World War III. It doesn't have to be a civil war.
No, it could be a natural disaster.
Natural disaster,
Yeah.
And so, I have, multiple different firearms for each family member that they are proficient at. They know how to use them, but that way they've got hunting rifle, they've got a more of a short range combat rifle, and then they have 2 sidearms. Plus each one of us has also a shotgun capability as well. Yes. So I want to make sure that everybody has that kind of range. So they've got a long range hunting rifle. So that way we can, if we've got to find sustenance outside of the cityscape, we can go do that and not have a problem. But then also self-protection and all those other things. Making sure that they have, clothes that are durable clothes that are in their bug out bags ready to go. A pair of durable shoes, because the minute your feet are messed up, they're going to be, you're done. So you have to make sure that you have a good pair of durable shoes that are going to survive different types of weather, and whether it be a pair of really good solid boots or something to that regard. Make sure you have those things.
And if you can't, I would say, like, if I were to prioritize the top things immediately, is, if you're a firearm owner, is training and proficiency and knowing how to effectively operate, dismantle, clean, and effectively deploy whatever firearm platform you're using is number 1. Number 2, besides knowledge, would be learn how to put on a tourniquet. And how to use one properly. Like, tourniquets really, really save appendages and lives, and it's really big, and you should have one. Like, in addition to just first aid or boo-boo kits, like, get a tourniquet or an IFAK and know effectively how to use the stuff that's in it, are probably the 2 biggest things. And then the rest is, you can get into survival stuff and water purification stuff, and, when you don't have a tank, because not all of us have a tank like that. Those are important too. But I would say learn how to apply a tourniquet. Don't do it on a first date. Like, oh, this is what we're going to do tonight, is have dinner and tourniquets. But I do think it's important.
Dinner and a tourniquet.
Yeah, I do think that it's important to know how to use that, because you could save your own life or someone that you care about.
Absolutely. And you'll probably be able to find somebody within your local area, and they tend to be, paramedics or something like that teaches classes for relatively cheap or free, that will actually teach you those type of training skills and be able to do, and they're not hard to find. Every town's got a couple of survival dudes that teach these classes.
I wouldn't say most. A lot of hospitals that have surgeons that are on call were also Army surgeons or medics at one point, and would probably show you how to use one in 5 minutes. Be like, this is it, and this is what you should do, and it should be about this far away from the wound, and then you should call 911 and wait, and that's the best thing you can do. Because even on a flat range, accidents happen. So have a tourniquet with you. Like, have medical stuff.
Always
basic
keep your med pack with you no matter where you go. And have a tourniquet in there. There is something that it's kind of my own personal thing due to my job, that I have actually added to my med pack, that it can't really take the place of a tourniquet, but can definitely help in a pinch. And they have this powder substance that they use and I have a bottle of it in my bag, and it's a coagulant that is a non-toxic coagulant that I put into all my rinse cups and my ink caps, and it turns it into a solid gel in a matter of seconds. So that way I don't have like a waste water situation. But this coagulant, I was looking at it, I was like, I'll bet you if like you're out and you get hurt or you get shot or something like that, and you put this in it, because it's non-toxic, and then you slapped a piece of Tagaderm over the top of it, that second skin bandage stuff that I use on tattoos.
I'd love to get a roll of that. Yeah.
Yeah, which I can absolutely get you a roll of that. I have each of those in my bag. And that, no matter what, and I actually ran it by a couple of my military paramedic friends. Yeah. And they're like, oh, yeah, this will work great. This is perfect. Just, and So you pour a bunch of that into the wound. It starts to coagulate that blood flow immediately. You slap one of those patches over the top of it, and it'll get you to where you need to go without bleeding out wherever you are.
Yeah, I have basic stuff, and then I have terrain specific stuff. Like I live in an environment that would be exactly the opposite of the environment that you live in. Right. So I have, I can plug a hole. I have a tourniquet. I have some or some coagulating agents, but I also have anti-venom, which in my neck of the woods matters a lot.
And doesn't matter at all for us.
It's important to like know, hey, what my environment is. Maybe I can build some med stuff specific to my use case, but general keep warm, stay alive, eat some food, have clean water. I do keep that stuff just in the pickup truck. If I'm on a road trip or something like that, it's nice to have a heat reflecting space blanket, some extra snacks. High caloric foods are really good. Granola bar type of foods, gummy bear type of foods, tortillas, if you're just hiking around, are great. Peanut butter with that powdered vegetable mix in there, and you can just eat a few spoonfuls of that. Just high density caloric stuff if you're out, in the middle of nowhere looking for water and shelter and stuff. So, but I thought it would be fun to bring up tonight because I think we could go on and on about specificity around the piece of gear because it's our favorite or because it's stuff that we really like. But I just think like what you should own really comes down to you. I have my recommendations on like what I would prioritize. Obviously, like learn to use the tourniquet, learn to use your weapons platform at the very least. But owning stuff, don't be afraid to just have these things because you can have these things. And if you do, you should train with them. Like it's important to not just put it on the shelf because the first time you put it on, you're weighed down by 65 pounds and then you fall over, or you're winded, or you roll an ankle because you're not used to the weight. Like, but I know that's like a bit divergent, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit.
I love this stuff, but like, I think that you should also learn how to start a fire without anything. Like, learn how to do that. But I also think that if you get some of those like Blackbeard fire starters, a couple of sticks of those, it'll save your life, and those things are great. I got a bunch of those in a case, and I'll take them camping just to try them out. Just like, okay, how easy is this? Dude, you could submerge those things. You could literally pull it out of the water and light a fire on it. Yeah. It's fantastic. So highly recommend those. They're not expensive. They're easy to put into a bag because they don't take up a lot of room. And you don't really need much to get that flint started, and it's fantastic. So highly recommend something like that. Make sure that you have ample fire starter or you'll freeze to death, and no matter what the situation. There's a lot to bushcraft.
Oh, big time, especially like urban survival and learning how to purify your own water.
Yeah.
Not impossible to do. A good skill to have, especially but it's like understanding your environment a little bit. Much easier for me to survive today if given my choice of gear out in the mountainous forest areas than it would be in the city and the desert, for sure. I'm still learning like what to do and what not to do. But it's important. It's really important. And it's pretty easy. Like sporting goods stores have really good shit that you could just get these things, add them to your kit, and you'd be way ahead of the next person for sure.
I'm fortunate enough to be in an area where we've got those type of stores in Bounty.
Yeah, everywhere you throw a rock, there's a outdoor store by
North 40, Black Sheep, every single place there's, it's really hard not to find kind of good survival gear in this area, which is really fortunate, and I love it. And that's not even just, those are just the big box stores. Like even the little mom and pop stores have great like water purifiers and stuff like that are kind of cool little neat things. And every once in a while I'll pick something up and add it to the stuff, but I have a full bug out plan. Everything's all in one room and it's all lined up, all the food and then all of the ammunition, all of the firearms, everything's all lined up, and I have all of the other gear and all of that all ready to go, and then a trailer attached to my 1978 truck that doesn't have a single computer chip in it, so
Yeah.
that it's going to keep going, and it's a stick shift too, and with a trailer hitch on it, so that I can throw my little box trailer on it and have a plan that and have a plan, have
Right.
an evacuation plan,
Yes.
have a set plan, routes known for where your family members spend the most of their time, whether it be work or school or whatever, that how, like, wherever you're at, who are you getting to first? What's
Right.
the plan? How, do they know where to sit still or to meet you somewhere?
Yep.
Like,
Meeting places are important.
these things are absolutely necessary. Also, get kind of familiar. They're kind of fun, but get familiar with, like, ham radios.
Yeah.
Ham radios are actually a lot of fun. The kids love, playing around with those. Learn your triangulation, learn where your towers are, and you obviously have to get licensed to do it on certain channels and everything like that.
Yep.
Not that anyone's coming after you for them, but you do technically have to get licensed for it. It's a long test, really. What's odd about it, but
your proximity to an airport makes it a little bit more monitored, I will say, than you'd find in remote areas. But yes, you're right. I have non-ham radios, the super distance 2-ways that are just general purpose, fun to use, and also can be equipped with headsets, which is really nice too. But you're absolutely right. Like, if you and your family are trying to survive in an area and you have meetup places, fallback plans, what to do when you're hurt, what to do when you don't know what to do. If you're trying to maintain protecting a house, the use of chem lights are important when clearing. Like, there's hand signals. There's a ton of cool stuff that you can do to be a little bit better prepared for the unknown. But as with all things, these are perishable skills, right? So it's important that you test and train with all the stuff that you have. But it's cool, and I've seen your setup. I really like it. I think you guys have a really good plan, which is cool.
And it's what's funny, although I do to some degree have an affinity for that kind of stuff because of the way that I grew up. I grew up kind of bushcraft, so in the middle of nowhere, beyond power and phone kind of thing. Off grid before it was cool. But I'm not obsessed with it. I'm not.
You're right.
I'm not constantly, like, tinkering around with it and thinking about it. No, I got it all prepped. I got it all ready. I got it all set up. I've got the plan set up. I've got, all of our evacuation points taken care of. Like, all of those things I've gotten taken care of. And then on occasion we'll go out and train and shoot and do firearm training and stuff like that. But for the most part, it just sits there, and I'm okay with that. I would rather it sit there. I'm not frothing at the mouth for the end of the world. I'm not, I would rather it sit there and collect dust, theoretically, than it have to be used. And so
I'm not longing for the days where I have to put survival gear to its ultimate limit, and I would much prefer to have a functioning gas stove and electricity in a quiet neighborhood in a house that I live in than have to put the shit on and fucking survive.
But there's no way that you can look at the world today in 2024 and not think, man, this is just cruising right along. We're just doing great, man. This is the tippy top of utopia, and we're just doing, cookies and cream everywhere, and it's not that. It's obviously not that. And you cannot look, as a grown man, cannot look at the world and go, man, I should probably do something about it. Like, I gotta make sure my kids are going to be safe, or I'm going to be safe, or my wife's going to be safe. Like, this is crazy. We live in a crazy world, and it would be irresponsible of me not to have some type of plan that within 30 minutes I've got everything we need in a trailer, and I'm out the door hunting down whatever family member isn't in my exact proximity and finding them and gathering them and going to undisclosed places
Right.
to, figure it out from there. So, yeah, it's preposterous of me to look at the world and not have these things set up.
Yeah.
So it's not out of an obsession of being an operator or
no, and that's a good point too, because that was something that ended up becoming the latter half of my discussion with my friends. It's like, I'm not romanticizing any of this.
No,
like I romanticize and celebrate the motorcycle part of it because that's what I'm into and I think it's fun. But this is different, like survivalism stuff. Like, they're good skills to have. It's nice to have the ability to protect yourself and to survive in areas and it's incredible how fast society can just crumble in minutes to hours kind of thing in the right circumstances. But at the end of the day, it's not something that I like fly out of bed and my head popping off the pillow in the morning like, oh man, I got to prepare for World War III. I can't wait. Like, that's not what any of this is about. Yeah. But the answer is anything you want is acceptable, and I don't think you should rail on people or rip on them for being into that stuff or trying to spread knowledge about that stuff or any of that. So I just thought it'd be kind of interesting to poke at a little bit tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. So, what is your preferred rifle platform?
AR. Now,
AR.
For end of the world, different answer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
AR's the world's just fine platform.
World's just fine. World's just fine platform is the AR.
Okay.
The preferred all around favorite rifle of all time is a semi-automatic Marlin 1022.
All right.
And it's not close. Because there's so much you can do with that tool. Bullets are exceptionally easy to find or recreate. You can eat small food, like hunt small game with that all day, every day. It is lightweight. It's extremely accurate without optics. It's packable. It's typically pretty small. It's easy to maneuver. That's all around a 1022.
Both
Ruger, Marlin, whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got, if I was to hunt big game plus self-defense plus survival plus a best all-around gun for dude my size plus things I would want to eat long-term, probably an AR. Yeah.
All right. I am notoriously an AK guy. I love my AKs.
Yeah.
And so, and then for kind of long range hunting, I've got a 270 that's pretty amazing. So that thing will take down pretty much anything in the Pacific Northwest. So I can hit something at anywhere between 6 to 1,100 yards, depending on the day and the positioning. But yeah, it's a pretty good firearm. So, but as far as my day-to-day tactical rifle, I love my AK, and it's a beauty. So
you know what kills me about the 7.62 by 3.9, right?
Yeah.
Like ballistically, it's just fine. I don't like how large the mags are compared to ARs when you're walking around with them.
Those big banana clips.
That's the only thing that's like, man, these are chunky. Like even the like flat, the slick steel ones are like, damn.
I like them. I like the way they look, dude. And like it just looks like an 80s the action movie gun.
Yeah, it's shades of Rambo like start getting conjured in my head when I see those. But having shot a few of them, even SKS variants are like, it's a great platform. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah.
I was gonna say I was supposed to read Gospel by Gen Z, wasn't I?
You definitely were. I've needed my fix of the Gen Z gospel.
Man, where did we end? We ended with Christmas, didn't we?
Yeah, I think so.
Chapter 5 already. You guys ready for this? Chapter 5, Wise Men. All right. When the son of the top G entered his incarnate era, 3 foreign kings saw a sign in the heavens and understood the assignment. They went to the King of Jews and spilled the tea about the new main character and asked for his at so they could simp for him. So King Herod asked his scholarly simps, and they told him at Bethlehem, like the at sign at Bethlehem. So he told the three kings and gassed him up, saying, when you find him, tag me, so I too may simp for him, but he was secretly salty and sus. When the three kings found the divine bro, they declared him valid and said, go off, king, slay prophet of the top G. But they were warned in a dream that Herod was sus and unhinged, so they left him on red and went home. When Herod didn't get the receipts, every shred of chill left him, for he was delulu and salty, that he could not throw hands with the divine chile. He took it personally and did not let that slide. His honest reaction? Throw hands with every chile in Bethlehem. And thus he entered deeper into his villain era. An angel spilled this tea to Joseph in a dream, so Joseph woke Mary and they took the holy chile and ghosted their native country until it was safe later on. That's chapter 5, The Wise Men.
Oh, man.
King Herod's just throwing hands with kids.
Just throwing hands with babies all over the place with chiles.
What an asshole.
Yeah. So, well, that was wonderful. I look forward to that every week because
it's a highlight.
It is, and it definitely in dark times it gives me a chuckle, and so I very much enjoy those. So, thank you for providing a weekly look into the minds of the youth, and through a biblical lens, I guess.
I would love to hear from a Gen Z that understood what I just said and was like, yeah, I get it. I haven't yet.
Mine are not that way, so I would have to find a different one. And I think that would be weird for me to go, hi, you talk weird. Come to my house so we could read these to you.
Yeah, come to my house. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's probably an interesting introduction into you're probably going to be on a watch list after that conversation.
Right. Yeah. So pretty unwise.
Yeah.
So I think we'll just have to just speculate.
We're going to work on the sales pitch for that a little bit off net. So you were talking to me before all this got started today, and you were saying there's some crazy shit going on in your area. There's some wild news stories. You explained it to me a little bit. None of the dots were really connecting, but share with us what just happened over there.
Local news.
Yeah.
Local news, flashing alert, local news for the North Idaho area. So we had a situation come to light this morning. And it's probably going to get some national press because it's involving the and what is the women's college like?
I think that the NCAA is whatever the college athletics association is, and it's women's basketball.
Right, and so we're close to Gonzaga University right now. So it's in Spokane. And it's a big
good Catholic school. Yeah.
Top 10 school for sports, especially. But we had a situation where apparently, and this goes into kind of the NASCAR Bubba category, or the Juicy Smollett category. In my opinion, I think that as of right now, that's where I'm leaning, where we had a situation where apparently last Thursday, there was an incident, and they had a press conference today, Tuesday, so nearly a week later, but they didn't have this press conference, which was supposedly a criminal situation, granted that the chief of police in Coeur d'Alene, Lee White, was one of the presenters of this press conference. It wasn't at the police station, though. It was in the lobby of the resort that we have in town, which is the big luxury resort right on the tip of the lake that everyone who's been to this area knows about. It's what makes Coeur d'Alene really famous. Floating Green, you've all probably played on 2002's like PlayStation.
Yeah, the
2's,
the PGA golf game that had highlighted that
Tiger
golf
Woods.
course. Yeah.
Right. You know, that's all real, and it's based around the Coeur d'Alene Resort. So they had it in the lobby of that resort for whatever reason. They've never had press conferences there before, especially for something that was, being touted as a crime. And
well, and when you preface it with Jussie Smollett, it's like a hate crime hoax, but now we're in the lobby of the resort. Interesting.
Right. Instead of out in front of the police station or even at the county building where, the city council or the county commissioners sit, or even the city council area, there's so many other more appropriate places that a press conference should have been taking place if this incident was in fact what they were claiming it to be.
Right.
To have it in this hotel is just wild out of the gate. Like, why? But what it was is it was a press conference that had a gentleman who is, and I use that term loosely, who is in charge. His name's Tony Stewart, and he is in charge of the Human Rights Education Institute here, which is a made-up institute that basically, looks for human rights violation crimes, and then they have no real authority. They just point the finger and say they're bad people.
Sure.
And that's really all they do. But they've got a historical building downtown that's been given to them rent free, but it's a whole cast of leadership characters are all like top tier villains in the area.
Yeah.
They're all of the bad people who are telling everyone else they're bad people. So, so he's standing up there, kind of leading the charge to a lobby full of journalists and people just coming to see what they're talking about. So it starts off with the fact that the Utah State University coach went on after the games got done, went on to do their press conference and said the reason why they lost was because their girls were so traumatized and down on themselves because they had an incident in Coeur d'Alene where they had a bunch of racial slurs slung at them. And everyone's like, wait, what? What are you talking about? So this press conference gets brought up today. And basically on the coach's previous press conference. So then the other speakers were Lee White, who is our Coeur d'Alene chief of police, and also a dud of a human being who has proven over and over again how absolutely worthless he is at his job. But then the mayor of Coeur d'Alene, Hammond, who is top tier trash man. Like the dude is just the worst human being. And
it's an all-star cast of city officials.
It's an all-star cast, right? And the reason I'm kind of painting this picture is so you understand the cast of characters.
Sure.
When I lay out the tapestry of nonsense that happens afterwards, you'll get why. The next guy...
I can feel your Chinese social credit score diminishing as you formulate sentences.
Yeah,
please
it's
go
going
on.
to negative numbers after this.
Okay.
And then the manager of the resort,
sure,
for whatever reason. So apparently, when they were in town, a couple of the women's basketball teams were staying all around town. Like we saw a bunch of buses that were... excuse me, staying at the motel by my shop. We saw some downtown, like midtown by the old Sherry's, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we knew that they were kind of placing them all over the place, but apparently two of the teams were staying at that resort. Okay. And that resort, as anybody knows, is right on our main strip, which is Sherman. It's kind of the old town strip where all the bars and all the nice shops and all of that are, and restaurants and everything, right? It's right by the tip of the lake. Everything's focused.
So it's a nice
there.
area.
So,
yeah.
So, and they said that they had come from the resort and had been walking up Sherman to go to dinner, where, I don't know, you've been there. Is there any restaurants on that strip that could house 2 basketball teams? I don't know if there's any places that have that kind of space.
I guess if you had a massive reservation where you took over the entire floor of the restaurant for one night, but no, not
like
really.
Tito Macaroni's, I've never been in there, but like
it's like a date spot. 4 to 6 tops are like the biggest tables they have, at least again years ago. Again, so I don't know, but
so, and it could very well be that they were walking up and down
we'll
looking for food. Right, I'll give them that, but it just seems kind of odd. Apparently a white truck, no description outside of that, with a Confederate flag hanging off the back of it, rolled past them and started screaming profanities and dropping N-bombs on this group of girls. They didn't, all right, whatever. They walk in, they go have a 2-hour meal at whatever, the restaurant was never named.
Right.
So, but they sat there for 2 hours, ate their meal. And then when they left 2 hours later, that same truck apparently waited for them for 2 hours on Sherman, which is a high traffic, high visibility area, waited for them for 2 hours, and then apparently called a buddy who was in another truck, and they revved their engines and were screaming N-words at them, and then followed them back to the resort. Then at that point in time, no one called the police.
Right.
For 4 hours. They took them 4 hours to call the police. And apparently they filed a report. No one's seen the report. They just said that they called them 4 hours later. Haven't seen anything yet. That being said,
are those public or not? Because it's city PD.
We've already, they are public, and we actually already have FOIA requests for all of it. So, my wife is on it.
Of course.
So at this point now, they go home. Nobody interviews them. Not a cop, not the mayor, nobody. Nobody interviews these girls. Nobody interviews any witnesses. No witnesses have said anything about this at all. Nobody. It hasn't popped up in any local social media, anything. We've got a lot of local pages that stuff like that typically pops up. Nothing, not a word.
Well, and
so you start looking,
stuff spreads like wildfire in a town your size too. So absolutely. If something like that did pop up, it would be on everybody's homepage.
Right, and not to mention, there's a couple of weird things. For instance, like, we go, okay, well, like, does the University of Utah have like a really kind of diverse, basketball team? So you look up their roster, they got like 3 black girls on the entire team. I think we have more than that at our local college here.
At the community college, right?
Community college. I know we definitely do with the men's team, because they all come and get tattooed by us at the shop. So they're half that team, are African American guys. So like, and they never say anything about any issues about living here. Like they come in and spend hours at the shop joking around with the guys, and not once do they ever go, yeah, this place sucks. This place sucks. I keep getting yelled, racial slurs at or whatever. Nothing. These guys never have said anything, which makes more sense to me. So then a friend of ours went and kind of like looked at the roster and then went to all their social media accounts. Nothing on any of the social media.
No one's tweeting about it.
No one's saying, hey, we had this really bad experience. Nothing. So like, you would think that a bunch of college girls would have been like kind of chirping off really hard.
Oh, fuck. Most of them all have podcasts anyway. Like, this would be out somewhere. Yeah. So they made this whole press conference saying that they wanted to prosecute, literally saying prosecute for hate speech crimes, which don't exist. I mean, even if this happened, and I do not condone the words or the actions of these guys, obviously
they didn't break any laws.
Right.
Like, sorry, that's free speech. He can yell whatever he wants. It's gross. It's undignified. It's nasty. I don't care for it. But it's also protected under the First Amendment, and he has the right to scream what he wants out of his windows, as long as he's not breaking decibel laws for downtown, which is 6 p.m. Criminal harassment would be a stretch. Also,
I just don't like. With as many folks that are in your local circles that are aware of this, however they fall on the I believe this, I don't believe this spectrum, somebody would have probably popped up with, oh, Joe Schmo's truck is white and has a giant Confederate flag on the back of it. Maybe we should talk to Joe Schmo. Like,
right?
And that's something that would kind of stick out downtown in that area. You know what I mean?
Without a doubt.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
There has to be somebody who pops up as a witness to say, like, oh yeah, I remember seeing.
Right.
I was downtown that night, and I remember seeing
none of the wait staff at the restaurant, any people nearby, nobody, just nothing.
And what's crazy is they threw this press conference stating exactly that they had no facts. In fact, we don't have any facts to this case. We've not interviewed a single witness. We've not interviewed even any of the victims, but this has got to stop, and we got to take care of this, and we're going to find these guys and prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. And you're like, but who and for what? And
which law?
Why are you even having a press conference if you've gathered no evidence?
Well, we've got to find this.
This is basically rumor and conjecture.
We've got to find this police report then.
Yeah, and that's basically, we've got a whole team of people on this going, let's get to the bottom of this, because this smells like the Human Rights Institute in this area, led by Christy Wood.
You smell that?
Hammond. Yeah.
It smells like an election year story, doesn't it?
It does, because in May, coming up, we have a battle for our precinct committeemen at our local Republican Central Committee. And normally there's about 8 contenders for the 73 seats. This year we have 70 contenders. They're all going after them. And the best way to do it is because already all over Twitter, they're connecting this non-incident, this possible incident, to the local Republican committee. They're all the usual suspects are coming out and going, see, it's the KCRCC who did this.
And it's fertile ground. I mean, that area of the country's had a notorious history. Yeah, with white supremacists and different things of that nature. But
stuff,
of course, the compound back in the late 80s, early 90s and stuff. So this is playbook politics. If this report isn't real,
it just feels really sloppy.
Yeah.
It feels like, oh, we got to get something out there to really, really paint this picture in order for us to win all those seats. Let's pull this one. It'll work really well. But it felt really sloppy. Like they just didn't put together the pieces well beforehand, because it feels like either it's going to get proven true in the wildest of senses, or it's really going to be proven false, and it's going to make the mayor look like an absolute asshole,
which is a calculated risk. But your target audience has to be the uneducated voter, the virtue signaler, and the social justice warrior.
Which, absolutely. And right now, our local newspaper, which is the Pravda Press, is what we call it. It's a CDA press, but they are owned completely by, and I'm not saying this lightly, by communists.
Right.
And they actually hate everything having to do with the KCRCC and anybody who has any type of Christian belief system or background. And so they will be, and very predictably, running story after story for the next 3 weeks at least.
Yeah. Opinion
stories and stories basically pinning all of this on the local Republican Central Committee. And all of your kind of low information voters, all of your normies who just are working jobs and raising kids and read the paper and don't really understand the nuances of the background battles that go on. They're all going to read this and go, "Oh man, I don't want it."
White truck, Confederate flag, visitors. I don't like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to go to church and work my job, and I don't like abortion, and I don't like, I love my gun rights, and I don't like Biden, and I like Trump. But I don't want to be connected to Nazi stuff. That's crazy. I don't want to have anything to do with that. That's the vast majority of everybody. And
Right.
so when you're not in the weeds kind of politico, where you understand all the layers and the nuances of what's going on,
Right.
like myself, you have to understand the minds of and the hearts of the people that are actually the 80% of them that are in the middle of all that. And they just read the paper, and the paper is genius about how they frame the narrative and create boogeymen out of stuff. And that's exactly what's going on right now. And so we have that situation happening, and this just all blew up today, but none of it makes sense. And
No, and I don't think you can lend it a hell of a lot of credence until there's proof.
Yeah,
and even
give
if
us
there's
proof, and we'll be fine with it. We'll go at it alongside of you guys. We'll be like, yeah, that's
Right.
not welcome here. But
yeah, there's still nothing to prosecute, but at the end of the day, a lot more people would be like, at least in agreement with the sentiment that no, that's shitty to do to people. And
Yeah.
it is. It's because it is.
absolutely.
I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, it just smells of a Jesse Smollett. Like they even said that they're getting the FBI involved in this.
The memes
And
are
I'm
going to be
like,
great. However this ends
dude,
up.
I hope so.
My God.
I hope that this is just a meme factory. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how the next couple of weeks play out.
So this
I'll
was
keep you
this press
updated
conference on television news, or was it just with all
It
the
certainly
local
was.
reporters? It was today,
Nope.
huh?
Yep. Yeah. You can look it up. It's some of the Spokane KXLY, I think, was there.
Sure.
A couple of others. But
I'll take a look.
Yeah, it's embarrassingly bad. If you watch it, Aaron chopped it up into a bunch of different sound bites and clips, and it's hilarious of them basically saying, "We got nothing,
Right.
but we're going for everything," and it's really, really bad. And then the minute somebody questioned them at the end, they were taking questions, and there was like 2 questions that got asked, and then the third question was kind of a local guy who is notorious already. Like he shouldn't have even been there, but he was asking a valid question, and he goes, "So you're saying you don't have any evidence or witness statements or victim statements or video or anything,
Right.
but you're going whole hog on this?"
Yeah, we're
what are you
jumping to
doing?
scorched earth right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, the whole thing's done. Shut off the whole conference is done. We're done. And then like shut it down, like in a comically bad way.
Wow.
Like people started booing this guy for even asking that question. And then they just, okay, we're done. No more questions. We're done. And then just walked away.
Yeah.
And it was like after the third question, it was really comically bad and telling about what the motives are behind it. And he tells you what the motives are behind it, like throughout the conference. And he's basically saying through it that we're not happy because we have an organization that requires there to be racial crime in the area for our existence to even be there.
Right.
And when it doesn't happen, it makes us look like there is no use for us. So we have to have some.
We got to go manufacture some if necessary.
Right. And so that's what we're doing. And it's pretty wild interview, but I highly recommend going to look at it if you have a
I think it's sad that this guy had, whether he's well respected in the community or not, that this guy had a valid question and then everyone just started booing this guy for asking fact-based questions. That's the level of interaction that we're at.
Normally I would agree with you, except for this guy kind of has built up the reputation to the point where most of the booing he gets, he earned.
Just for being him, that might be one thing, but
yeah.
What a state of being we're all living in right now, eh?
Right. Yeah, for sure. It would be the equivalent of, the guy who sold the murderer the gun showing up to the press conference and going, "What's the big deal?"
Right.
And
that's a very shitty chalk outline you drew.
Yeah, exactly, and that's precisely kind of how this situation was with him. So he shouldn't have been there. Like anybody else should have been going there to do. There was a couple of other of my friends who are all part of different kind of local news organizations that were there.
Yeah.
That one guy, the whole thing, the whole like reason for the setup is essentially based around him and his existence within this community and what he's brought. They're trying to paint the entire KCRCC because of him and him pushing his type of stuff here. And then he shows up to the thing to go, well, I've got questions too. And although his question was valid because anybody else could have asked that exact same question.
Yeah.
It was provocative just for him to be there. And he knew that. He's a provocateur and a sensationalist. And that's kind of his whole shtick, you know? And so it just kind of propelled and the narrative even further.
As it does, yeah.
Yeah. So it was just unwise for him to go down there at the very least. And at the very most, it was intentionally provocative. So,
well, I definitely want to see the police report if this comes out.
Yeah.
I definitely do.
I'll keep you guys updated on this.
Yeah, please do. I'll watch the coverage at least. The internet's good for that. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Fun stuff though.
Yeah. I like fun stuff.
Both of us watched the new Roadhouse. Now,
oh yeah.
I recently, just for the first time a couple weeks ago, watched the original Roadhouse.
Well, you'd never seen it before?
No, I'd never seen it before. I've always seen cutscenes and clips and references. It's probably been on in the background, but I never sat down and watched the original Roadhouse. And I gotta say, I mean, I think this movie wasn't taking itself serious, but I think Patrick Swayze was taking every minute of his job on that set serious.
Yeah.
Which it makes it kind of sweet
for exactly that reason.
Yeah, it's incredible. The director's name is Rowdy, which is that's a good start.
The whole premise of the movie doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. It doesn't make sense.
Isn't famous bouncers.
Yeah, nobody knows Dalton. Just, I know who you are. No, you don't. Nobody knows this guy because of what happened in Ohio, several states away. Get out of here. I don't believe the community of bar goers was that vast in a pre-internet world.
Right.
Just saying. I did, however, love the fact that for no reason at all, nor was it ever explained in the original movie, but there is a monster truck that some dude just casually drives around. Like it's like a Bigfoot style monster truck rally monster truck that homeboy just gets in and drives around, and sometimes through car dealerships and crushes things. And it's incredible. It was like a really great, this is a terrible fighting, nonsensical, total dude movie from the 80s, which
with like Sam Elliott Sensei.
He was the best. I've never with the hair and the whole 9 yards. Like, oh my God.
Made legendary careers out of being bar brawlers.
I say that to say this did set the context for my expectations around the new Roadhouse, right? With Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yep.
This villain character portrayed by Conor McGregor, the UFC guy, was perfect. He was born to play this role. This is exactly
good. I'm glad you're saying it.
Who this man is and portrays himself to be on camera each and every time he's on camera. Full strut walking around with his butt cheeks out. Like this is Conor McGregor.
Maniacal to the fullest extent. Yeah.
Yeah. So knowing going into this film that I was going to suspend all disbelief on a wild story, I had a lot of fun with this movie. If I hadn't seen the original Roadhouse, I would have been like, what the fuck did I just watch? Like, what? So
100%.
Yeah, it really helps set the tone in a really fun way. I think they did a pretty good job. I thought the fight scenes were super cool.
Great. Yeah. I just watched it like 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
I actually, Aaron was working in the living room and I was like, I'm going to go watch a movie to review. And I was just skimming around. I was like, dude, Roadhouse, I got to see this version.
Yes.
And after it was done, I actually got up out of bed and actually went into the living room. It was just like, dude, that was so much fun. It was just fun. And the fight scenes are amazing. Jake
Yeah.
Gyllenhaal, actually, because Conor McGregor was so over the top,
Yes.
which was perfect. Like, the guy can't act, but it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It did not matter. Like, he was the best villain of the 2024, far and away.
Yeah.
Just insane, maniacal, crazy man. And he played every bit of it to the fullest extent, and I loved it. However, it almost downplayed the amazing job that Jake Gyllenhaal actually did in this movie. He was actually believable and likable, and good dry sense of humor every once in a while with a quip that came out that was just like, oh, there's Jake Gyllenhaal. That's that's the Donnie Darko I remember.
He got his body in incredible condition for this movie too, which he's done before. He played a part as a boxer in a movie called Southpaw a few years ago, and he was just as ripped in that movie too. But I was like, holy shit, this guy's.
Can we talk about the fact that Jake Gyllenhaal, as much as underplayed as he is probably one of the most. The guy goes out of his way to find diverse roles. Like, do you remember like Bubble Boy? Jake Gyllenhaal was Bubble Boy.
Yeah, Bubble Boy, Donnie Darko.
And then he's gone into Marvel movies. He's done like military movies. He's done super dramas.
I was wondering when Heath Ledger played the Joker and Maggie Gyllenhaal was in that movie, if at some point on the script, if there was like some sort of kissing scene in there, he'd be like, I kissed you and your brother back on Brokeback Mountain. And I could cross both of those off my bucket list as an actor in Hollywood. The kissing scene never came, but no, Jake Gyllenhaal's done some pretty crazy, way off the chart, left, right, up, down roles everywhere. I mean, and he does a pretty good job in all of them, honestly.
I like the fact that they took this movie in more of an action movie than the original one was. Yeah. Like, they obviously had to up the stakes. They obviously had to make like more kind of akin to like the movie making of today. The boat chases were great. The villains were great.
Yes, there were still scene for scene direct replication from the first one too, including lines of dialogue. So they definitely were calling back to, not just paying homage to the original one, but yeah, they had to up the ante with a more wild and unbelievable story with crazy actions and different people. But yeah.
The one thing that I was let down by, I kept waiting for it, and I was like, who's the Sam Elliott character? Yeah. Where's he going to come into it? And they just kind of omitted his character, and it wasn't needed for this particular version. And I didn't feel a loss of that character, but I thought it would have been kind of fun to see who could they possibly pick to replace a Sam Elliott, right?
Or bring Sam Elliott back as like the sheriff that has one line. That has one line at the end that's like, I've seen this before, and then it just like cuts to credits or some shit.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also liked the change of the backstory. I did like that. It actually gave him a credibility of why people would recognize him.
Yes.
And why he was kind of down on his luck and all of that stuff. Way better backstory than just like legendary famous bar, bruiser guy,
guy that turns, shitty bar brawl bars into upstanding establishments where everyone wears a red polo and they can't wait to be there on Friday night. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I loved the backstory to it. So they did a really good job. It was just super fun. And once me, like, I'm constantly scanning, but not a even sprinkle of wokeness in that movie. Not a sprinkle. It was not meant for the woke. And it was great. It was akin to like the new Top Gun movie,
right?
The Maverick.
They did it.
It was just made to be a good, fun movie.
Yeah, they went to great lengths to make sure that nobody's feathers were ruffled in Top Gun Maverick, and you could tell too because the airplanes were referred to as fifth generation fighters. The enemy was referenced a lot. Doesn't say who,
right?
the terrain was way different. We had Arctic terrain, we had desert terrain. There was a whole bunch of different stuff. So there was no like, you know, this is a North Korea or a Russian threat or this type of threat or anything. So like in that respect, I feel like Amazon Studios, I believe, produced this movie. Kind of did the same thing and went, just make a action movie. Don't real world references don't matter. Let's just go beat some people up and add Conor McGregor to it. And I mean, it was really good for that. So I appreciated it a lot.
Very pleased. Not that, you know, I would have turned it off if like, you know, the swishy gay character was the comedic element or whatever, you know,
right.
It wouldn't have bothered me either way, but it was poignantly unwoke.
Yeah, no, like it was just a straight down the line. We're just going to have nonsensical violence for the fun of it. Yeah. How many megs though?
Was really good.
It was.
How many megs?
Mm-hmm. It was.
Oh man, I'm going for a solid 8.5 megs, maybe 9.
I was going to give it a full 7.5 megs from me, just for what it is. Like, is it a thinker movie? No. Did I get anything out of it? Absolutely not. Did it achieve its intended purpose? Yeah, it did. It sure did.
Yeah. In the way that, like, you know, that movie Nobody, if you've seen Nobody, with Bob Odenkirk, highly recommend that one. That kind of just, or like, what are the Keanu Reeves movies?
The Matrixes?
The John Wick.
Oh,
movies.
John Wick's. Yeah.
It just scratches that kind of part of your brain of just like, this is just pure, simple tower siege kind of entertainment. You don't need a thick plot. You don't need espionage. You just need a dude who's got a goal at the end and him fighting his way to get to it.
And you need several references throughout each of the movies about that one time where he killed 6 men with a pencil. Yeah. The legend of this person grows and grows. No, I think to your earlier point about like the brief backstory about the UFC history with Dalton in this one, made it way, way, way easier to swallow that like the whole movie knew who this guy was from the beginning or whatever. And it was cool. I wasn't expecting a crocodile, not an alligator, in Florida eating a guy. I didn't expect that.
Dude, that was great.
Doesn't get called into for questioning when the houseboat is shot up and stuff. We're just plot lines moving, boys. Let's get on this train. Stuff's happening left and right. I was like, wow, I didn't see that coming. Jesus, that was okay.
Right. I didn't at all. I was like, oh, that's how this is resolved. Okay.
Yeah.
And then like the super weird cameo by Post Malone.
That was interesting. I think if I were in his position, I would do the same thing. Like that's a fun legacy. Like, I was in Roadhouse.
For sure. Yeah.
That was cool. The guy that plays the cop in this one, the crooked cop, plays a crooked cop in like almost every B movie. He's in like the Fast and the Furious.
If you're anywhere near the border,
right,
that guy's the crooked cop of that town. Yeah.
I think they have like typecast staples and they're like crooked cop. Oh, see if this guy's available. Of course he's available. Bring him in here. It's going to be like one day of shooting. He's going to get paid a bunch. It's going to be awesome. But no, I thought they did a lot of really funny, nonsensical things in the movie that, again, if I hadn't seen the first one, man, I would have been like, who's this for? I love this, but besides me, who's this for?
Right. Yeah. So,
but yeah,
I'm glad you liked it because I watched it. I was like, man, I think he's watching this one too.
Yeah.
And I'm loving this.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if he's going to pick it apart, but it's really hard to pick apart when it's just fun.
Yeah.
You know?
It's the expectations were set about 3 days earlier watching the first one. And I was like, I got through half of it and I was like, this is one of those, like, we don't give a shit, irreverent, movies, except I can't figure out for the life of me why Patrick Swayze's pushing for an Oscar in this role. Like, he's going for it. Like, I mean, he thinks
Right.
like, you know, the shirtless Tai Chi, like the whole, he's just going for it. And I'm like, this is great. Cause I think everyone around Patrick Swayze knows what's happening except for Patrick Swayze.
Yeah. Well, I think he was just like, this is the one. I didn't get it for Dirty Dancing.
Right.
I have to get it for this one, you know.
And I got to shake this Dirty Dancing image guy. And then what does he do after that? Like Ghost, I guess?
I think so. Yeah, I think Ghost was next after that.
And now I know we lost him young, so who knows what his body of work would have ended up being much later. But knowing that this was a replication of something that was absurd, it was awesome.
I just thought of something. Actually, Jake Gyllenhaal actually starred with Patrick Swayze in Donnie Darko.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Swayze was in Donnie Darko as the weird motivational speaker that turned out to be the weird kid pervert. And wow, there was actually a connection there. I wonder if that had any influence on why Jake Gyllenhaal decided he wanted to do this. Like he had created a friendship or something like that with him on Donnie Darko, and then when the opportunity arose for him to reprise the role of Dalton, that would be kind of a cool thing to find out if that's kind of what the backstory behind that was. Because honestly, Jake Gyllenhaal would not have been my number one pick for a Patrick Swayze replacement for that.
Right.
But he did so good that I was just like, oh yeah, I'm bought in. Like, I'm open. And he was right for the role, and he did a good job. But I think there was probably, you know, maybe a hidden motivation why he actually wanted to take on that role.
Could be. I love when actors take roles and then seriously surprise me with like how awesome it turned out to be. Where it's like, I just didn't picture you in this role going into this thing, but you really kicked ass. I saw a recent. So, like, have you seen the movies with Benicio del Toro, the Sicario movies?
I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't seen those ones.
So the first one is awesome. It's it's difficult to watch. It's like it touches on some pretty interesting dark themes and stuff, but it's fucking awesome. He was like, yes, I get it. Then I watched him do a film called Reptile, where he's like a good cop.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome movie. And there's an actress that I haven't seen in years and years that it plays his wife in this movie. I'd have to Google it now. It's one of them.
I'm going to.
Yeah, she was like in all the 90s heartthrob.
Alicia Silverstone?
Silverstone, yeah. She just comes out of nowhere. Yes. She comes out of nowhere to play his wife in this role after having not done movies for a very, very long time, at least not ones I've been watching. And he kills it in that too. And I was like, you're not who I would have picked for this role. But Justin Timberlake is in that movie too. He's awesome in it. I recommend watching Reptile for sure. But yeah, Benicio del Toro like killed that role. And I was like, damn, I know you as Sicario. That's what I was expecting. Not this. So, but pretty good stuff. Obviously, Heath Ledger's the shining example of that. Like, you got the Knight's Tale dude to be fucking Joker. Get out of here. Like, that ended up being awesome, right? Like, so yeah.
That was I was definitely not on the train for that.
Yeah.
Like, it was wild. I was mad.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, who? This guy?
Right.
Heath Ledger? Come on, give me Willem Dafoe. Give me even who else was the other guy that was in Knight's Tale? The
guy that plays Vision?
Yeah, Paul Bettany.
Paul Bettany,
like,
yeah.
He would have made a great Joker. Like, there were so many other people, and I was like, this kid, this guy, like, but I mean, obviously, I was super wrong on that one because he was great. So
yeah, and it's Christopher Nolan. Like, now I have a pretty high expectation of his stuff, and like Oppenheimer was another fucking banger from that guy too for me.
I haven't seen that one.
Shit, that's a good movie.
I haven't seen that one.
And I love Cillian Murphy. Like, that guy is a absolute hitter. Every single time he takes a role, it's awesome. So Anyway,
And I think the first time I saw him was in the Danny Boyle zombie movie 28
same.
Days Later.
Sunshine for me.
Oh, Sunshine was great too.
Also,
That's
Danny
another
Boyle.
Danny Boyle. Yep.
Yep. I was like,
So, yeah.
oh yeah, I forgot about 28 Days Later. Yeah, Sunshine was my first like big screen experience with Cillian Murphy. But yeah,
Underrated sci-fi film. Everybody should go watch Danny Boyle's Sunshine.
Yeah.
Fantastic cast, fantastic plot, awesome acting, great special effects. Great movie. Highly recommend.
yeah. So I think as a precursor, and it's something I encourage you to watch. I know you're probably not going to get to it in one night, but I had a little time on my hands last week, and I started watching and then subsequently consumed all of Guy Ritchie's miniseries called The Gentleman on Netflix. Have you seen the movie version of that?
I have not.
Should
I watch the movie first?
Please watch the movie first, because it's going to set your expectations for what you're going to get into. Like, that doesn't make sense. Why is this happening? Like, the movie kind of covers all of that. This is sort of a reimagining, but it's still his story, and he directs almost all of the episodes as well. It's really good. Really, really good. Because Guy Ritchie. It's
second. Oh yeah, I
underground gangster, slick conversation, fast lingo. Like,
even when he's not doing that and he's doing like the King Arthur movie, like I even love that one. Anything Guy Ritchie touches, for some reason,
bro,
I prefer Guy Ritchie over Quentin Tarantino. So I will actually take Guy. Even the Sherlock Holmes movies were awesome.
They were.
Everything he touches, I'm already on board. So
Rock and Roll and Revolver, the Madonna era when he was married to her, I could do without.
Yeah, I won't revisit those two, but
they're not rewatchable for me, but they were pretty good. That said, I have different directors for that. Might be a good topic for futures. Like, what are your top 5 favorite directors for whatever reasons? Because I think Guy Ritchie's up there, Tarantino, but for different reasons, like dialogue reasons. Maybe we'll plot something out. But before we go, you also mentioned you watched a Nickelodeon documentary, and this is something on HBO that I really wanted to see. It's been thrown at me through YouTube shorts like over and over again.
Right.
And I didn't quite get there.
It's getting a lot of traction on social media because of kind of the heavy nature of it. And honestly, there's really nothing that was... There was only one giant revelation to the whole thing. You kind of watch it and you're just hearing it from the perspective of people who are like, yeah, all of that happened. We were on the shows. We were on all the early Nickelodeon shows.
Is it a movie or a series?
It's a 4-part series.
Okay.
And so basically what it does is takes the two main players, one main player and then another guy who has a lot of other ties in weird places too. So what's his last name? Dan, the guy who basically created a bunch of the Nickelodeon shows.
Okay.
And his abuses towards the kids on the sets, which were kind of vague. They didn't really pin any like serious sexual allegations on him outside of some accusations from Amanda Bynes. And Amanda Bynes was one of his biggest stars. And she is, obviously ran into some crazy mental issues and life problems, but had been apparently screaming through different social media apps trying to tell what happened. And there's been accusations that she got pregnant by this producer Dan at the age of 13 and had to have an abortion from her claims. But the big revelation that everyone knew that Brian Peck was this pedophile guy that had been working within the Nickelodeon stream and then also partially in Disney, stuff like that. And everybody had heard that he had gone to jail for pedophilia and then got rehired by these companies. And everyone's like, what? Why? But it turns out that the big revelation is that it was Drake of the Josh and Drake show, which you and I think are both too old to. I vaguely have memories of this seeing flicks and flashes of the show in other people's houses, but yeah, this kid named Drake and I'm blanking on his last name, but he actually gets on camera and kind of spells out the horrific nature of the abuse that he endured by this guy and what it's done to his life afterwards and all of these things. And it was just basically a confirmation. No one knew that it was Drake. They all knew that it was somebody who worked within the Nickelodeon family, but they didn't know which actor it was until he just basically came out and said, it was me. This is exactly what happened. It has ruined my life. And I don't think that you really need to watch it outside of the clips. You're not going to get anything from watching the 4 episodes. That you're not going to get through like social media clips because they pretty much clipped out all the good stuff. The last 2 episodes could have been one. They kind of stretched it out with a lot of really long pauses as he was like explaining the horrors that happened to him. And you're not going to clip out those pauses. But
I don't mostly feed off of stories like that. It doesn't enrich my life. To like the awareness part, I always appreciate. Like, okay, you know, Harvey Weinstein and all that bullshit. It's like, okay,
right.
I would rather know than not know that stuff, but I don't like grab popcorn and celebrate all the abuses through a 4-part series. It's something I probably would shy away from more than like dig into. But I do find it interesting that like for some obvious and some non-obvious psychological reasons, how most of the child actors that have spun off to be absolutely broken people as adults, some of them are pretty forthcoming about it. Some of them are not so much, but like, you know, a lot of the Disney stars like Shia LaBeouf went off and did some pretty crazy shit. Macaulay Culkin did some pretty crazy shit.
Corey Feldman, all of those.
Will Wheaton even, but he talks about it a lot. Like his animus is kind of pointed more toward his parents than it is at the system of Hollywood itself. But there's like a lot of younger actors that just like, and some of it's his own narrative.
Well, a lot of that animus is not only, it's due to the fact that even if they had a, you know, normal or regular relationship with their parents, what ends up happening is the resentment of the fact that they put them into this environment and were managing their money and handling all of their money, and the parents got more involved in the money, and then during that time frame they ended up getting molested by some creepo on a set who is not only attracted to that industry due to its accessibility to children, but also for the fact that like it's celebrated. Like this Brian Peck guy who molested Drake, and by molest, I'm using the least aggressive version of that as possible because it was egregious what this guy did to this poor kid. And all of the people in the courtroom who went to Brian Peck's side wrote letters to the judge saying, yeah, it might have happened, but he's a good dude. Like, insane people like Ryder Strong from Boy Meets World and like, who also is a crazy messed up guy. So, and then the parents from like, not Family Ties, but Alan, what's his name? Alan Thicke and Joanna Kearns, who were the mom and dad of the show that, what's his name? The Christian guy that does nothing but Christian stuff now. Kirk Cameron.
Right.
Yeah. So the parents of that show went to Brian Peck's defense. All of these people did. There was a whole mountain of people who went to the defense of this obvious child molester, who did disgusting things to this guy. So, and then he gets hired back, but he also works with Bryan Singer of X-Men fame, who notoriously has been in and out of courtrooms with accusations of hot tub parties with young boys, like over and over again. So it's not only that these guys are things aren't happening to them and these kids are mad that this is, but they're celebrated and protected.
That's what I mean. Like the whole thing is broken, and it's broken. It's spinning off a bunch of broken humans, you know?
Yeah.
And who knows? I mean, but like the whole trope of the child actor that just winds up being absolutely nuts or whatever. But there's obvious reasons behind it. And, you know,
Right.
I think in Will Wheaton's case, because he's open about it a lot, it would appear his parents cared mostly about the money and not what was happening to him or how much he was working or the shit that he was going through or the stuff that was being done or any of that. But it's just, I don't know, that the whole system is just really creepy. But at the same
Evil.
time, I don't know. To your point, I'd probably watch the clips and highlights. I don't think I'd really sit down and celebrate like, oh, what happened?
The saddest part was actually Drake's dad, who was a really good dad and really was protecting him against especially Brian Peck, but everybody. He was constantly there making sure no one hurt his kid. And Brian Peck manipulated his dad out of his life and manipulated him against his dad and then put him in his mom's custody, and his mom let this happen, and the dad didn't even know until court was done. The guy had been arrested. That had been going on for months.
Damn.
They went through the entire trial, all of that, and he finally started calling his dad back, but he couldn't tell him. And then it finally came out, and it broke his dad.
Yeah.
Because his dad was like, I was there to protect him, and they pulled my child away from me and did this horrific stuff, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't protect my kid. And it was heartbreaking. And so that was probably the hardest part to watch, was the dad just breaking down, going,
yeah, I imagine.
They stole this. But it was... I don't necessarily recommend it. I mean, if you really want to see kind of the subtleties and the nuance of how, like, female writers, because female writers were treated really poorly by these guys as well. A lot of other kids were like mistreated and cast aside, and a lot of kind of lesser crimes, but still horrific treatment within the scope of what was supposed to be, you know, children's television that you know, we all kind of grew up on. But it's not an uplifting watch, and you can get most of the clips of all of kind of the key moments through different social media platforms. But it did kind of tie into what happened today. Did you hear what happened today, or was that today or yesterday?
Oh no, you were telling me offline about it. The P-diddy thing?
P-diddy getting raided, like, on charges of sexual or sex trafficking, whether it be child or adult. It's not yet been said, but those are the accusations that are being thrown around. Apparently a couple of his sons were even handcuffed and drug away, but it was at multiple properties, Florida, New York, and California, I believe. And they
I would have figured they would have got him for like some Tupac charge later on, because it wasn't that long ago, and I'm talking 8 to 10 months ago. Somebody that lives blocks from me, where I live, was picked up in connection with Tupac's murder. Like,
that's wild.
Yeah, in 2023, like that's and it was picked up in connection with and I was like, yeah, P. Diddy hits the news. I figured it would have been for that, but not sex trafficking and shit. Holy cow.
Yeah. There, you know, statements coming out basically saying that, like, it's Epstein level kind of charges, which is wild.
God.
But I mean, there's been accusations for a long time. I've seen videos where, like, him and a really young Justin Bieber, he was given like temporary custody of Justin Bieber, and he was like super creepy in the video, saying, yeah, we're gonna do stuff, and Justin's like, yeah, we're gonna do stuff. You know, and it was just like really weird, creepy videos.
Wasn't he found by Usher's camp, and Scooter Braun then became his manager? And I don't know. I don't know how any of that industry works at this point.
It doesn't make any sense to me. But that being said, he apparently, there's rumor, and I don't know if it's true or if it's been debunked or not, but for the vast majority of the day, they were saying that his private jet left LA, left Southern California, and was tracking towards Barbados, where he will not be able to be extradited.
No extradition. Yeah.
No extradition from there. So, like, They think he fled and left his family, but that was just all kind of rumor and speculation.
Also, like, he's wanted?
Ago.
Like, there's a warrant out for him and he's in Barbados? I got it.
Yeah, they're coming after him. So he fled.
I thought you were saying he was picked up on charges for something. They're still looking for him?
Yeah, no, they haven't picked him up yet. So everyone's just kind of, the rumor mills are going everywhere.
Wow.
There aren't any real police reports out quite yet. So they're kind of just trying to figure out what the next steps are. Or,
Jesus.
I mean, they could have him by this point. I have no idea. But just wild that, I'm wondering how many doors this is going to open, because I would imagine that guy is going to talk a lot in order to save some time off of his
either that or
sentence.
Anyone that's ever been connected with one of his record labels or shows or any of that stuff is going to come forward and bury this guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Jeez. God, the entertainment industry. Gross.
I know. The whole thing is gross. And I mean, if you've spent any time kind of going down those rabbit holes, there's very few that you can even speculate are actually not bought into a really horrific system and traded a lot of their soul in order to get fame and money, and are willing to do some pretty horrible stuff. The whole thing is based off of horrible things, and it sucks because I'm a media nerd. I've loved movies and music my whole life, so like it's just terrible to see that pretty much anybody that you like is involved in something you don't want to know about. And
it's true.
Yeah, so do not put idols up, because they will always turn out to be
let you down in some
didn't want.
Yeah. Damn. Not Diddy.
Yeah. The Diddy and Diddler memes that are going everywhere.
No, the memes are out already.
Oh yeah, P-didler, like all of those things. They're already flying everywhere. So
God, the internet undefeated. Well, geez.
Do you have anything more uplifting other than child trafficking to end up on?
It's just people come to the show with an expectation of joy and happiness, and they get P. Diddy's child trafficking and Nickelodeon touching films, and I don't know. Honestly, not so much. I have a pretty aggressive week coming up in terms of like work stuff. A dear friend of mine is going to be coming down and staying for a couple of nights, this time with his wife, because they have some stuff going on. So my buddy Curtis is coming down Friday.
Oh, Curtis, cool.
We're going to do a range day. We're going to go do some hanging out and some extreme barbecuing, I think, is on the menu. After that, not much. I got to find some new content to consume for the pod, because I got to watch there's some movies on the list I got to catch up with, but not really. Nothing for today anyway, other than, stay vigilant with the news you consume. You never know what's real and what's not. Keep an eye on this RFK and Nicole Shanahan situation.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll
Other
keep
than
you
that,
guys updated on the local news stuff here too. But
yeah, I would love to see when that comes out. What did that say? You never know. No, that's it for me though.
Yeah, I got a pretty basic week of coloring on people, and outside of that, I don't know. I'm gonna go smoke some chicken breasts here.
Nice.
And feed a few folk. But yeah.
All right. Well, we'll wrap here, and we will probably see you guys next week. Please feel free to reach out. modernrelicspodcast@gmail.com. You can check us out on the YouTube.
And happy Easter, everybody.
Happy Easter, indeed. God, I forgot that was coming up. That's this weekend.
Yeah.
Otherwise, have an awesome week. We will see you guys soon.
Yep. All right. Bye, everybody.
See ya.